take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
The Matrix is 26 years old, yet it still doesn't feel like a film from another era. The bullet time sequences, the green digital rain, and the idea of the red pill all combined to reshape how an entire generation saw reality on screen and beyond. But what most people don't realize is how unlikely it was that this film ever made it to production in the first place. It went through years of rejection from studios, lost major actors along the way, and faced constant doubt behind the scenes about whether it would even work. These are 21 facts about The Matrix that most fans have never heard before. Before we get into it, if you were given the choice, would you take the red pill or the blue pill? Tell us your answer in the comments. Now let's get into these interesting facts. Number 21. The truth about the Wachowskis. Before anyone had ever heard of The Matrix, Lana and Lily Wachowski were living in Chicago writing horror comics. They worked for Marvel imprints, writing titles like Ecto Kid and contributing to Clive Barker's Hellraiser for Epic Comics and Razorline. They were also obsessive Dungeons & Dragons players who spent their teenage weekends in an attic building entire fictional worlds from scratch. They wrote a 350-page role-playing game of their own called High Adventure. Every single hour of that creative groundwork directly fed into The Matrix. The layered mythology, the philosophical architecture, the sense of a world with an enormous amount of meaning buried underneath the surface. All of that came from people who had spent years building imaginary worlds for fun long before anyone was paying them to do it. So how did they actually get a major studio to take the script seriously? The answer involves one of the most audacious gambles in Hollywood history. Number 20. A single scene took entire initial budget. Warner Brothers was not immediately sold on The Matrix. They offered the Wachowskis $10 million, which was nowhere near enough to make the film as envisioned. Rather than accept the partial budget and start shooting, the Wachowskis made a decision that could have ended their careers. They spent the entire $10 million on a single scene, the opening rooftop sequence where Trinity runs from the agents. They brought in the stunt choreographers, the wire rigs, and the full production. They finished the sequence, cut it together with temporary effects, and screened it for the studio. Warner Brothers watched it, understood immediately what they were looking at, and unlocked the rest of the budget. Now imagine if the studio had said no after seeing it. What would the next 26 years of sci-fi cinema have looked like without The Matrix? Number 19. Will Smith turned it down. Will Smith was the biggest movie star in the world in 1997 when The Matrix script landed in front of him. He was offered the role of Neo. He said no. His reason was Wild Wild West, the steampunk western he had already committed to. Wild Wild West opened in June 1999, the same summer as The Matrix, received devastating reviews, and is now remembered primarily as a cautionary tale about letting a rapper talk you into a project. The Matrix opened in March 1999, won 4 Academy Awards, grossed $467 million worldwide on a $63 million budget, and permanently changed the visual language of action cinema. If he had said yes, would Keanu Reeves have become Neo? Would the film have worked the same way? Drop your honest opinion in the comments. Number 18. Keanu Reeves was recovering from spinal surgery when filming began. Just before production started on The Matrix, Keanu Reeves underwent surgery to fuse vertebrae in his spine. The fusion had been necessary because the misalignment was starting to cause paralysis in his legs. He then spent 4 months in fight training with martial arts experts in preparation for the film. Kicking was genuinely difficult for him throughout that training period because of the spinal surgery. The choreographers adapted around this limitation, which is why if you go back and watch The Matrix carefully, Neo almost always punches rather than kicks. The limitation became a stylistic signature. The broken spine of its lead actor helped define the visual language of the film's action choreography. But that's not all. Another cast member also suffered an injury, but kept it to herself. Number 17. Twisted her ankle in the opening scene. The opening sequence of The Matrix, where Trinity runs across rooftops and through buildings while being chased by agents, took 6 months of training and 4 days to shoot. During the filming of that sequence, Carrie-Anne Moss twisted her ankle badly enough to constitute a real injury. She did not tell anyone. Her reason was specific and entirely rational from her perspective. She was afraid that if the production found out she was injured, she would be recast. So she filmed the rest of the movie on a damaged ankle without saying a word. She told people about the injury only after the film finished shooting. Knowing that, does the opening sequence hit differently now? Let us know in the comments section before we move on to the next fact on this countdown, number 16. The green digital rain is made of Japanese sushi recipe characters. The green cascading code that has become one of the most recognizable images in cinema history was designed by production designer Simon Whiteley. He was trying to create something that looked genuinely alien and digital while still having a human origin buried somewhere inside it. His solution was to scan the characters from his wife's Japanese sushi cookbooks, mix them with mirrored Western numerals and letters, and arrange them into the vertical rain pattern. Whiteley described the green code as inspired by the visual of rain running down a window. The most famous digital image in science fiction cinema is, at its core, a cookbook. Now, let's talk about just how real some of the scenes actually are. Number 15. The real S&M Club. In the first act of The Matrix, Neo meets Trinity in a dark, heaving nightclub. The club is not a set. It is a real location in Sydney, Australia, called the Hellfire Club, which operates as a genuine BDSM venue. The Wachowskis did not want the extras to perform or simulate what club patrons looked like. They asked the actual members of the Hellfire Club to come in wearing what they normally wore on a regular club night and to behave the way they normally behaved. The background in that scene is not actors pretending to be people in that environment. It is people who go there regularly just being themselves while Keanu Reeves walks through their world looking for answers about the Matrix. Interestingly, the Wachowskis weren't the only one invested in making the film a success. The cast also had their role to play. Number 14. A required reading before filming. Before any of the principal actors were allowed to arrive on set and start making the film, the Wachowskis handed them a reading list. The books were not optional background material. They were required preparation. The primary text was Simulacra and Simulation by French philosopher Jean Baudrillard, which examines the relationship between reality and representations of reality and argues that in modern society the simulation has replaced the original. The Wachowskis also included works on consciousness, mythology, and the nature of identity. The irony is that June himself, when he saw what the film had done with his work, was deeply unhappy about it. Speaking of perfection, one of the most dangerous scenes in the movie is real. Number 13. The lobby shootout used no CGI. The lobby shootout sequence, where Neo and Trinity walk into a government building and spend several minutes destroying it along with every security guard inside, is one of the most explosive action sequences in the film. It looks like it should have required enormous amounts of digital effects to produce. It did not. The scene was filmed entirely using practical effects. Real explosions, real stunt work, real debris, real plaster columns detonating on cue. What looked like chaos was completely engineered chaos. Every element of it physical, constructed, and shot in camera. Deviating from how creative the producers got, let's talk about how one of the cast decided to spend his earnings from the film. Number 12. A donation to leukemia research. Keanu Reeves was paid $10 million up front for The Matrix, which combined with his back-end share of the profits brought his total earnings from the film to approximately $35 million. His sister Kim had been fighting leukemia for years. Keanu donated 70% of his total Matrix earnings, approximately $24.5 million, to leukemia research. He did not announce this publicly, and it became known only through other people reporting it. When the sequels were made, he gave each member of the special effects and costume teams $1 million each from his own earnings. Now, let's move on to the next fact on this list. You definitely didn't figure this out. Number 11. Hugo Weaving had neck surgery right before filming. Hugo Weaving, who plays Agent Smith with a cold, mechanical precision, went into surgery for a neck injury in the period immediately before filming began on The Matrix. The surgery was not a minor procedure. He came out of it and went directly into the physical demands of filming one of the most choreographically complex villain roles in blockbuster cinema. The subway fight between Neo and Agent Smith, which is widely considered one of the finest fight sequences in the film, was performed by a man whose neck had been operated on weeks before the cameras rolled. The next fact reveals the hard decision the Wachowskis had to make, but most of the audience didn't know about. Number 10. A choice between finishing the Matrix trilogy and rebooting Batman. After the extraordinary success of The Matrix in 1999, Warner Brothers presented the Wachowskis with two options for what they would do next. Option 1 was to complete their Matrix trilogy with back-to-back sequels. Option 2 was to take over the Batman franchise, which had been effectively killed by Batman and Robin in 1997 and was sitting dormant at the studio waiting for someone to do something useful with it. The Wachowskis chose The Matrix without much deliberation because it was their story and they wanted to finish it. But after making that decision, the Wachowskis almost had their story taken away from them. Let's uncover what exactly happened. Number 9. Warner Brothers threatened to take over. During the principal photography of The Matrix, Warner Brothers executives became unhappy with the pace at which filming was progressing. The production was falling behind the schedule that the studio considered acceptable, and at a certain point the executives issued an ultimatum. If the Wachowskis did not speed things up, the studio would step in and take control of the production away from them. The Wachowskis responded by assembling the opening Trinity sequence they had already shot and cutting it together with temporary sound and effects. They screened it for the studio. The executives watched it, understood that what they were looking at was worth the extra time, and stepped back. They did not interfere again for the remainder of production. Moving on, we have a fact only cast members were privy to. Number 8. Morpheus was supposed to be named after the god of dreams. Most people who know Greek mythology assume that the character of Morpheus in The Matrix takes his name from Morpheus, the god of dreams, which would be a logical and elegant choice for a character whose entire role involves liberating people from a false dream reality. In fact, the Wachowskis were instructed by the character named Morpheus in Neil Gaiman's Sandman comics, which is a series about the personification of dreams and stories. Lawrence Fishburne was specifically instructed to base his performance on the Sandman version of the character. The brooding gravitas, the sense of someone who has existed in a different dimension from ordinary human concerns, the quality of someone who has seen too much of the real world to be surprised by anything anymore. All of that came from Fishburne studying a comic book character, not from a classical mythology textbook. Now, let's ponder on something. What really made Warner Brothers say yes to the Wachowskis? Number 7. The convincing 600-page storyboard. The Wachowskis did not simply submit the Matrix script to Warner Brothers and wait for a response. They knew the concept was difficult for conventional studio thinking to process. So, alongside the script, they commissioned a storyboard from underground comic artists Jeff Darrow and Steve Skroce, a shot-by-shot visual breakdown of the entire film running to nearly 600 pages. It was not a pitch document. It was a complete visual version of the film, every scene drawn out in detail so that a studio executive who could not visualize the script could simply look at the pictures and understand what they were agreeing to finance. The 600-page storyboard was the argument that made The Matrix possible. And just when the production might have encountered budget issues, the production made a decision that kept it on track. Number 6. The film was moved to Australia to cut the budget. The Wachowskis' original budget request for The Matrix, based on filming in Hollywood, was $180 million. Warner Brothers refused. The response from the production was to move everything to Sydney, Australia, where a combination of government film incentives, lower labor costs, and a favorable exchange rate meant the same film could be made for $63 million. While the production made compromises so the film would work, Keanu Reeves also made a compromise of his own. Number 5. Keanu Reeves starved himself and shaved his body for the pod scene. The scene in which Neo is freed from the machine pod, his body extracted from the liquid in which he has been suspended his entire life, is one of the most visually disturbing moments in the film. It is supposed to look like a body that has never moved, never been exposed to sunlight, never had any voluntary physical experience. To prepare for it, Reeves lost 15 pounds in the weeks before filming the sequence. He also shaved his entire body. The combination of the weight loss and the hairlessness was designed to give the specific emaciated, newborn quality to the image of Neo being expelled from the system for the first time. The actor playing humanity's savior deliberately made himself look as broken and diminished as possible, so that the moment of his liberation would carry the correct physical weight. If so much care was put into shaping the actor's physical decline and eventual transformation for maximum emotional impact, could the film's most iconic visual illusion really have come from something as unexpected as a vodka commercial? Number 4. The interesting inspiration. The bullet time effect, the breathtaking slow-motion rotation around a figure frozen in mid-action, is so completely associated with The Matrix that many people believe the film invented it. It did not. A Smirnoff vodka television commercial in 1996 had already used a very similar technique 3 years before the film came out. What The Matrix did was perfect scale and narrative integrate the effect in a way that made it feel genuinely new. The production used a rig of over 100 cameras arranged in a 360-degree array, all triggered in carefully programmed sequence to capture the frozen moment from every angle simultaneously. The footage was then composited together to create the continuous rotational movement. The effect had existed. The Wachowskis made it legendary. Within a year of the film's release, bullet time had been parodied, referenced, and imitated in dozens of other films, television shows, and video games, including Max Payne and Superhot, whose entire gameplay mechanics were built around the concept. If bullet time quickly spread into games and films everywhere, what deeper idea was already hidden in plain sight inside Neo's own copy of a philosophy book? Number 3. The unusual drug safe. The Wachowskis did not simply ask the cast to read simulacra and simulation. They put the actual book on screen. In one of the first scenes of the film, Neo opens his hollowed-out copy of Simulacra and Simulation to retrieve a computer disk he has been hiding inside it. The book, whose philosophical framework underlies the entire premise of The Matrix, is the object that Neo uses as a secret compartment for illegal data. And the author of that book, when the film came out, said it completely missed the point of what he was arguing. The joke, intentional or not, runs in every direction simultaneously. If even the author of the book felt the film misunderstood his ideas, what happens when real life forces the story itself to quietly rewrite one of its most important characters? Number 2. The Oracle's recasting was written into the story. Gloria Foster played the Oracle in The Matrix and The Matrix Reloaded. She died in September 2001 between the shooting of Reloaded and Revolutions from complications related to diabetes. The Oracle had to be recast for Revolutions. The casting director remembered that Foster and actress Mary Alice had played sisters together in a long-running Broadway play and brought Alice in to take over the role. The change in the Oracle's appearance between Reloaded and Revolutions was then written directly into the film's mythology. The Oracle explains that she has undergone a transformation due to events in The Matrix. Her appearance changed as a consequence of the story. Now, let's get to the final fact on the list, the one that might explain why The Matrix still feels so uniquely ahead of its time. Number 1. The storyboard that came to life almost shot for shot. The 600-page storyboard that the Wachowskis commissioned from Jeff Darrow and Steve Skroce was not just a pitch tool. When production began and cameras started rolling, the directors brought those same storyboards onto the set and used them as the literal blueprint for almost every shot in the film. Scene by scene, panel by panel, the images that Darrow and Skroce had drawn years earlier in ink were reproduced in live action on a Sydney soundstage. If you could take the red pill right now and find out whether your reality is simulated, would you actually do it? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.